has only one side, but lot of.
Just to the right.
Certainly a lot of stories from this one slide itself.
Thank you so much, Akilesh, and to our previous speakers for sharing the information about Japanese and the Australian contexts of formalised and non-formalised volunteering. Volunteering is a particularly important topic to me as an individual. I volunteered a lot in my life and still currently volunteer here in Darwin. But as my professional role in the Careers Centre here at Charles Darwin University, I am coordinating a brand new program that we've launched just this semester called the Value Program, which stands for Volunteer and Learn. We like making nice little acronyms with our programs so that it's nice and catchy. So we've introduced the Value Program, which is connecting students here at the university with volunteering opportunities in the local community. But first, I'll give you my personal reflections on my involvement in the Mud Army in Queensland, Brisbane in 2011. So the mornings of Thursday the 13th and Friday the 14th of January 2011 started like a good Queensland tourism ad. Beautiful one day, perfect the next. Clear blue skies, bright shining sun, except the Brisbane River was breaking its banks and spreading its dirty, muddy, brown water through the city and the suburbs of Brisbane. And this was because of weeks and weeks and weeks of torrential rain that we had had, very unusual rain occurrences throughout December and January 2010-2011. In total, 20,000 houses in Brisbane were inundated, and thousands of businesses and major industrial areas of Brisbane were completely flooded. 200,000 people were directly affected and displaced, and 33 people sadly lost their lives due to the flooding in and around the Brisbane region in that summer. My suburb, where I lived, was affected by the flooding, and it was really surreal to walk out on these perfect days onto the 4-lane highway that was just near the end of my street. It was completely deserted because just a couple of hundred metres down the road, it was completely flooded. It looked like an ocean of water in front of you. And so me and all my neighbours were out there standing, watching, observing this very bizarre circumstance. So the response that came from our local community was the Mud Army. So what motivated me to join? Well, at the time, my husband was deployed in Afghanistan with the Australian Army. And I was all by myself in Brisbane. My family was elsewhere in Australia. And I had this intense need to connect with my community in this time of need. My workplace at the time, University of Queensland, had been flooded, but I couldn't get there. The access to get to that place was cut off because of the flooding. And so I wasn't able to help my most important community, my workplace, so I helped out in the next nearest place that I could get to, which was my local suburb. I was ready, I was willing, and I was able, so I went to help. So what did I do? I went to a local business area where there was a series of cafes, restaurants, takeaway, gyms, pharmacies, medical clinics, the typical business area in a local suburb. And we did a lot of clearing shelves, ripping up flooring, brushing, sweeping, hosing.
Wouldn't have been Rosalie by any chance?
Sorry?
Wouldn't have been Rosalie by any chance?
It was not Rosalie, it was Jindalee. But Rosalie was very badly hit. And basically dumping everything that we touched. We did not, unfortunately, have the benefit of a pamphlet to say, if you just separate the materials in these ways, you can save money. That would have been a fantastic resource for us to have. But we just stripped and dumped. What worked well for my experience in the Mud Army? It was a really collegial spirit. Everyone was there to help, to get stuck in, and to help our local community. We were quick, oh my goodness. The speed at which we were able to clean out these places and just bring them back to a shell was quite surprising. I was really amazed at how quickly we could get things done. And you really had a sense of local pride at the end of it, that you had participated, you had given your bit to make your community bounce back after this horrible event. What didn't work so well? I think a lack of information. You mentioned the sometimes confrontational between the trained professional, semi-professional emergency services people and people like the Mud Army. I think it was simply the fact that there just aren't enough professional people to be present at every single location. And so in the particular area I was working in, we didn't see anyone in orange. So just that lack of information and of more professional, more prepared, more trained information and advice. In some instances, especially where people were helping out in suburban areas in people's homes, again, that speed of ripping stuff out and dumping it on the front lawn, it lacked a little bit of care. And in some instances, important belongings were lost, that the families weren't able to go in and sort through their belongings before the Mud Army came in and got rid of it all. As you can see, one of the pictures here, so many people wanting to help from areas that hadn't been affected, but because of the transport and access issues, they spent long amounts of time waiting in lines to get on shuttle buses that could then transport them to those locations. A lot of people very happy to wait, but obviously you're ready to go, you're ready to help, and then you have to stand in a line. It's very military, hurry up and wait. I have that experience personally. And then also, as you can see from some of these images, sometimes the hygiene precautions were not that great. So people were a little underprepared to go into these situations. And then because these are all volunteers in an informal, spontaneous setting, whose insurance covers them if they get an infection from a cut that's been infected by muddy water?
Or if they have an accident.
Or if they have an accident, yeah, if they hurt themselves, if they, strain back or whatever.
Probably the major factor, the Mud Army 2.0 was stood down after one day.
Yeah. So lots of learning opportunities from the Mud Army, but overall an amazing sense of community pride and community involvement, and people who were really willing and able to help in these circumstances. So as I was reflecting on this, the important things that I thought lessons learned from the Mud Army is 3 C's: consultation, coordination and communication. Really important that consultation is had with the owners of the property that you're going in to help, and making sure that the help you're giving is actually the help that they want. Because I say this to my 2 boys all the time, just because you think you're helping doesn't mean you actually are. If it's not the kind of help that is needed. Coordination. Really important that someone is directing the helping hands and making best use of everyone's time. If you're not helping in the right way, is it actually helping? And communication. Communication to remove confusion, to dispel misinformation, and help with the frustrations that may be occurring. And also communication to ensure that volunteers are prepared and knowledgeable about the situation that they're going into. So that was my personal experience of the Mud Army. But now just to give you a little bit of information about the value program that we've launched. So it's a brand new pilot program. So we're very much in the experimental stages to see how it's working. But basically we are partnering with Volunteering NT, which is the peak body for volunteering in the Northern Territory. And we're liaising with them and their networks of volunteering organisations to seek opportunities that they're offering and linking students into those opportunities. Because at the Careers Centre, we are constantly talking to our students about how important it is for them to volunteer. That volunteering is such an important opportunity for them to develop those employability, those transferable skills that they need in the workplace that they may not be able to access through paid employment if they're struggling to find that paid employment. So getting a group of students together, working them through a series of workshops that instructs them on the importance of volunteering for communities, for organisations and for themselves, how to incorporate that volunteering experience into their resume, and then working them through the rights and responsibilities of volunteers, including looking at agreements that they will need to sign with the volunteering organisations they go into so that they are covered by insurances and the health and safety requirements. And then after they've had those workshops, they then go out into the community to complete their hours of volunteering. And the students get to choose which activities they want to participate in, and we have a number of different organisations such as CareFlight, Red Cross, Writing for the Disabled, a lot of the local festivals. So we just had some students at Fred's Pastoral Show on the weekend. So a lot of different opportunities that they can get involved with to either start their volunteering journey or to continue it if they have already been involved in volunteering. The most engaged students we have here on campus seem to be our international students, and for some of our international students the concept of volunteering is actually quite foreign. And so this is a really good opportunity for them to be exposed to it and to have some experience in it themselves as a small group of CDU students, and then hopefully encouraging them to go out on their own and continue their volunteering in maybe not such a spontaneous way, but perhaps in a more sustained long-term volunteering position. So that's value. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Very important information, and not only your Mud Army experience, but also your CDU value program introduction. And I think I take a lot of pride when you mention about the CDU value program, because while my first experience of volunteering goes back to my home country, when in the peak summertime, I originally come from central part of India where currently the temperatures could be about between 40 to 45 degrees centigrade, hot, no humid, so it's kind of extreme heat. And in those days, railway stations had maybe a tap water, but maybe running out of water or giving very warm water, and people's containers were filled by the volunteers like me, who were, of course, adults guided, under the adults' guidance, they were young children from the school who were utilizing their summer break to volunteer and fill the bottles of the passengers in the train with the cold water at that time. And when I moved to Japan as an international student in the beginning, volunteering did help me a lot to get the sense of belongingness to the place, to feel a lot of pride about what I was doing, and also to understand the Japanese society's integrities, cultures, the way of working, the way of networking with and understanding the international people, etc. So thank you very much that you are mentioning international students and their dedication to the volunteering is really important. And now I would like to invite Professor Sakiko Kanbara. She's a professor of nursing, trained as a nurse in the beginning, and is still teaching that. She has also established an EPI-Nurse, which is a global organization headquartered in Japan, which has also received the Global Risk Award